What is up, cinephiles, and welcome back to Screen Kings. For today's video, let's talk about the psychological horror film Orphan First Kill, directed by William Brent Bell. Now, this one got an early theatrical release here in the Philippines, but internationally, I believe this will be available via streaming on Paramount Plus starting August 19. Now, I wouldn't spoil anything here, guys, but since this is a prequel, I will be spoiling the events in the 2009 film Orphan, so proceed at your own risk. I still remember watching that film. I thought it's gonna be another run-of-the-mill child possession film, but then by its third act, lo and behold, the titular kid here, Esther, actually is a 33-year-old woman. She's a psychotic killer who escaped from an Estonian mental facility. So this prequel tackles her early chapters in her stay during that mental institute and her first adoptive family. From the get-go, this movie already acknowledges her rare condition, a hormonal imbalance, some sort of a dwarfism which causes her physical growth to stop. So when I first heard that they're doing a prequel, my concern is how are they going to de-age Isabelle Fuhrman here, the original actress who played in 2009 film, because she obviously aged, and in this prequel she's supposed to look younger. So I thought they're going to do some CGI magic here, kind of like what they did to Eleven in Stranger Things, but it seems like this is beyond their budget, so they have to settle in doing body doubles and some forced perspective shots and a lot of heavy makeup. Now, the makeup here, I would say it's a bit inconsistent because there are some shots where she looks young, some shots where she looks a bit older. In general, I would say she looks like a 14-year-old girl. So I wish they made her a little bit younger, considering that if you watch the 2009 film back to back with this one, the age difference is really apparent. But anyway, if you can get past through that, I think that wouldn't bother you that much. Honestly, the best part of this movie is seeing Esther again, a completely different side of her, a more grown side, I would say, because she is really mischievous here. She is crazy, but she's genius in a way. So Isabelle Fuhrman, she really eats this role. She goes back into the role a decade after with such ease when it comes to the accent, maintaining that facade of innocence, and she quickly switches off to a whole other character when she's off to do her shenanigans. And since we already know her secret, we know that she's pretending to be a child. It's fun to see her duplicitous side. It's almost like the movie is winking at its audience. As part of her story arc here, the movie humanized her a bit. It was able to generate a bit of a sympathy for this character, which is weird considering how villainous this character is in the first film. But yeah, I find myself cheering for this character, and by the end of this film, she's kind of dipping already on the anti-hero status, and I'm fine with that because I want complexity in my characters, especially if this is going to be a titular character. Anyway, on the first act here, I gotta admit, I felt like they're treading on a familiar ground because they seem to rehash the first film. We got here the adoptive family led by the parents Rossif, Sutherland, and Julia Stiles. Their child Esther was missing, so Lena, the original name of the character, steps in. So I thought this is gonna be another case of another dumb family. Can't they really recognize that this is not their daughter? But then again, there comes the second act twist that really caught me off guard. It's not as mind-blowing as the first film, because I think that's hard to top, but nevertheless, this twist left my jaw on the floor, and it kind of changes the dynamic, the power dynamic of the movie and the mood for the rest of it. So the challenge here on out is how to sustain that twist. And I gotta admit, this is where the movie kind of fell short because it started to feel a bit comedic. And I'm not sure if they intended it to be that way, but this is a horror film. But then again, I was enjoying it, so do we really care? And it kind of reminded me of how I felt when I watched this movie Malignant when it came to that third act twist. I think it was at this point in Orphan First Kill that I realized that this movie is going to be probably polarizing. There are a couple of scenes where it feels illogical, or a couple of characters doing a lot of bad decisions. So as the movie progressed, it became a little bit more ridiculous. It generated more laughs for me instead of scares. I felt conflicted honestly because it's one thing to make a horror film with dark humor and another thing to make it almost like an outright comedy. I felt like this movie kind of dips onto that side of outright comedy. Anyway, another performance here that I enjoyed is Julia Stiles as Trisha Albright, the protective mother of the family. I would say she is not your typical Vera Farmiga character. She has more edge, and it might seem like Esther has finally found her match. As for the rest of the characters, they're okay for me, but they kind of faded into the background because the dynamic between Trisha and Esther here is what really stood out for me. Overall, as an origin story, I felt like I was waiting for more answers in this film. Kind of answered how Lena became Esther, but not necessarily what is the core of her distraught. When did she become acting psychotic? So I wish the movie kind of pushed it further earlier to get a psyche to this character. Anyway, there are some references to the first film to establish that continuity. Her fascination on painting gets answered in here. But yeah, as a streaming movie, I think this is well shot. There is definitely aesthetics in this film. And it's more graphic this time. It's titled First Kill, but Esther does a lot of killing here. It's a killing spree actually. So yeah, I'm gonna give this movie a 3 out of 5. There's still an uncomfortable aspect to this film considering they're dealing with tones of Oedipus complex, but it's not that really bad if you go in with the right level of expectation. I would say a B movie level of expectation. And honestly, if they do more films of this, I would watch it, provided that it has a good story, because Esther is slowly rising to become a classic horror character for me. So yeah, that's it for my review of Orphan First Kill. How about you guys? Let me know what you think as soon as you watch this film. Hit them on the comment sections down below. Also, if you enjoyed watching this video, hit that like and subscribe to me for more content. Thank you so much guys for watching. Until then, I'll see you all on the next one.